You must forgive my laughing, but it's so funny. The other day I did something I hadn't done for years. I fell off a bicycle. You see, I'd gone down to the country to stay with a cousin of mine who keeps a pig and a haystack and a wife and that sort of thing, and he lives in a large house in one or two of the shires. My father used to breed those things, you know. Large cart height. Horses, I mean, with hairy legs. He used to show them at the agricultural doings with short horns. I don't mean the horses had short horns. It's the name of a special kind of cow. Anyway, my cousin's house is in the heart of the country. Only one picture house, which is on Fridays, used by the local highbrows. They have a lecture on the art of China one week and on chamber music the next. So confusing. My cousin's house is a lovely old building standing in its own grounds. I always think that's much better than standing in somebody else's, don't you? It's got lovely facades, well, FAC with a 5 underneath, ADES. And there's a gargoyle. Oh, no, that's my aunt. Anyway, I'd been there nearly a week, and one day I met a girl I hadn't met since I was a boy. She was a Miss Adams then, and we used to go out bicycling together. In fact, this is really a psychological story. You see, in those days, we were awfully in love, but I was only 16, so I didn't know much, and of course Miss Adams didn't, and we used to kiss a lot. Well, there wasn't any harm in that, or not much. And sometimes I used to hold her bicycle and that sort of thing. I'd have done anything for that girl, and I nearly did, but we drifted apart. In fact, I went into matrimony and alimony, and I forgot all about Fanny. That was her first name, till we met again. She'd married, of course, and her name's now Mrs. Smacklethwaite. Her husband was alive and kicking. I was rather worried about the latter, but she said it wasn't at people, but over traces. So they go on famously then. Fanny told me she was doing a lot of social work for the local vicar. Apparently sometimes she sat on her committee, and sometimes she sat on his. This made me rather jealous. I wanted to go out cycling again with her to recapture that first fine Carliff rapture. At first she was a bit frightened. I think Mrs. Smacklethwaite remembered how I used to kiss her and hold her bicycle, and she said things might go too far. I said that was impossible if we loved each other. So anyway, I got my cousin to get his bike out of the stable, and away we sped, ringing our bells like anything. That happened every day until one day our husband, Mr. Smacklethwaite, met us suddenly, and I found Fanny had lied about him kicking over traces. It was over bicycle saddles. When I got up, I realized what a fool I'd been. I did wish I'd never tried to let Mrs. Smacklethwaite replace my tender memories of sweet Fanny Adams. That's what she was called. Wasn't it funny, though? Falling off a bicycle. It's ridiculous. Talking of the country, here's rather a sweet song entitled The Spinster. A spinster decided to keep a hen. Well, first it was 1, and then it was 10. She went down to the village to get the birds, and the poultry seller and she had words. I want 10 hens and 10 cocks, the spinster said. The poultry keeper scratched his head. 10 cocks, she said. Oh, that's never done. So having 10 hens, miss, you'll only want 1. I want 10 hens and 10 cocks, was the spinster's reply. I know what it's like to be passed by. Isn't that charming? Goodbye, bird.
Goodbye, darling.
When autumn's vanished thoughts of spring, and little birds no longer sing, happiness has taken wing, love, beware. When wedding bells no longer ring, then Cupid is the banished king, for love gets blamed for everything. And that's not fair. It isn't love, it's passion, which causes all the sorrow, the irresistible thing that you do today, which you ought to put off to tomorrow. What makes you go for a ride in your car with a girl who is not a relation? What turns an ordinary countryside drive into a neat situation? What makes your engine conk out near a pub in a place where there isn't a station? It isn't love. It's intelligence. What makes young folk look at paintings of Venus rather than those of Minerva? What makes them read Gilbert Frankau, you know, with such undisguisable fervor? What makes them peruse the news of the world instead of the Times or Observer? It isn't love. Morbid inquisitiveness. What makes that noble young lord of the land endeavor his parents to frighten by coupling his honorable name with a damsel who certainly isn't the right one? What makes him spend that expensive weekend at the Metropole Hotel of Brighton? It isn't love. The public school spirit. What makes the spinsters of 80 or 70, 60 or 50 or 40 remember the longings they meant to forget and endeavour to show they are sporty by buying that record entitled They Get a Much Better Time When They're Naughty? It isn't love. It's a compliment to me. What makes a pure couple engaged to be wedded realize their plans are miscarried? What makes them linger too long in the dark when they certainly shouldn't have tarried? What makes them marry 4 months in advance of the date when they're meant to get married? It isn't love. It's impatience. It isn't love. It's passion which causes all the sorrow. The irresistible something you do today, which you ought to put off till tomorrow. What makes a bachelor run after girls nor be satisfied till he has caught 'em? What makes him buy silly things for the wench and then wonder why he has bought 'em? What makes largest families allotted to those who have the least cash to support them? It isn't love. It's ignorance. Ignorance? That reminds me. Let's bring up my latest. The dial system. Ruined your nails. Worn gloves. Hello? Hello? Darling? This is me. I finished the record. What time? You love me? Splendid. Huh? Come round to your flat at once. Righto. There you are. It isn't love. I don't know. Perhaps it is. It's wonderful.